Percent of totals. In this quick video, I'm going to show you how to change your data to show percentages inside a pivot table. So to begin, I'm going to create a pivot table that shows the regions by categories and the total sales that those make up. So I will go up to, don't forget to click inside your data table before you insert your pivot table. Then it will select the table for you. Make sure the range is correct. Now I'm going to go ahead and toss this in J3 for mine. Okay, now it's time to actually build the pivot table. So down the left side of my pivot table, I want to show all of the regions. So I'm going to grab regions and drop it in rows. That way it shows up down the left side. Now before I go further, I am going to go up to my Design tab and adjust Report Layout to show an outline form. That way you get headings up top that are more intuitive, and it makes it a little bit easier to build. Alright, so I have regions down the left side. I want my categories, furniture, office supplies, and technology to go across the top. So I'm going to grab category and drop it in the column section. So now I have regions down the left and categories across the right. To put in data, I want to show total sales. So I'm going to grab sales and toss it in my sum values. This gives me my total sales by default because it's a quantitative variable. It's a measurable amount, so by default it's going to go ahead and add those together. I am going to go in here and do a quick formatting just to make this easier to read, and they are sales, so it should be accounting. And then follow the number of decimal places the directions tell you in any specific format. Okay, so now I have the actual amount. So in the central region, the furniture sales totaled $163,000. Well, what if I wanted to show the percent that made up of the total? In order to do that, I'm going to grab sales again and drag it down into sum values. This is going to simply repeat the values that I already have. Right? That's not necessarily what I want. Instead, I want to show the percent that each makes up. So you can click the I next to the variable in the sum values, or you can right-click and choose Field Settings, or you can even go into your actual pivot table and double-click, and it will bring up the same pivot table field box. Now here, let's see if I can get this out of the way a little bit. Here is where you can show your data differently. So this is going to be my percent of total. And now I want to show it as a percent of total. So I'm going to show the data in a different way by clicking Show Data As. Now I'm going to click Show Data As. And instead of no calculation, I want to show, in this case, my data as a percent of a total. And I want to show the total percentage that each category and region, so for instance the furniture sales in the central region, what does that value make up of the grand total? So I'm going to choose percent of grand total. Now when I press OK, it will actually change these to percentages, and it will show me that the furniture sales in the central region is 7.13% of the total sales, and I can tell that that's a grand total because if I scroll all the way over to the bottom right corner, it's showing that those percentages make up 100%, including all of the categories listed. Now there are alternatives. For instance, if I just wanted to show for furniture sales how much each region makes up of the furniture sales, I would only really be looking at this percent of total for a particular column. So this would show me, if I double click here and I choose to show data as a percent of a column total and press OK, now it will show me the percent that each of these makes up of the column total. So in this case it's saying, hey, of all of my furniture sales, 22% is made up from the central region, 28% from the east, 15 from the south, and 34 from the west, for a grand total of 100. And you know you've chosen the percent of column totals because each column will total 100% in the grand total. And there's one more option. Let's go ahead and go back to our pivot table field. And this time let's show data as a percent of row total. And as you've probably now guessed, the row total in this case is going to say, hey, for my central region, 32% of my sales in the central region were made up of furniture, 33 were made up of office supplies, and 34 were made up of technology. And you know you are totaling the rows because if I scroll over, you can see that the total percent of total, you can name that something better, is 100%. So you can see that it is choosing a percent of row total. Now while I'm here, one, I could make this look nicer by doing some alignment and formatting, but what I want to show you is sometimes having this percent total down at the bottom is helpful. Sometimes it's really not. Or sometimes you want to get rid of the totals on the right side. All these are automatically put in grand totals. So I'm going to click on my Design tab and click the drop-down arrow next to Grand Totals. This enables you to turn off your rows and columns or any combination of totals for your rows and columns. So maybe I want it, in this case I'm just showing the percent of total for rows, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn it on for rows only, which will eliminate it for the columns and add it across your rows. So anytime you see in directions that you need to add or remove grand totals, this is where you do it.